reading Tyler's Neighbors. It's a Denmark folklore. Once upon a time, a young man and a young girl were in service together at a mansion down near Claude Mill in the district of Leisgard. They became attached to each other, and as they both were honest and faithful servants, their master and mistress had a great regard for them and gave them a wedding dinner the day they were married. The master gave them also a little cottage with a little field, and they went to live. This cottage laid in the middle of a wild heath, and the surrounding country was in bad repute, for in the neighborhood were a number of old grave mounds, which it was said were inhabited by the Mount folk. Though Tyler, so the peasant was called, cared little for what when one only trusts in God, thought Tyler, and does what is just and right to all men. One need not to be afraid of anything. They had now taken possession of their cottage and moved in all their little property. When the man and his wife, late one evening, were sitting talking together as to how they could best manage to get on in the world, they heard a knock at the door, and on Tyler opening it, in walks a little man and wished them good evening. He had a red cap on his head, a long beard and long hair, a large hump on his back, and a leathered apron before him, in which was stuck a hammer. They immediately knew him to be a troll. Notwithstanding, he looked so good-natured and friendly that they were not at all afraid of him. "Now here, Tyler," said the little stranger, "I see well enough that you know who I am, and matters stands thus. I am a poor little hillman to whom people have left no other habitation on earth than the graves of fallen warriors or mounts, where the rays of the sun never can shine upon us. We have heard that you are coming to live here, and our king is fearful that you will do us harm and even destroy us. He has therefore sent me up to you this evening, that I should beg of you, as amicable as I could, to allow us to hold our dwelling in peace. You shall never be annoyed by us or disturbed by us in your pursuit." "Be quite at your ease, good man," said Tyler. "I have never injured any of God's creatures willingly, and the world is large enough for us all, I believe, and I think we can manage to agree without the one having any need to do mischief to others." "Well, thank God," exclaimed the little man, beginning in his joy to dance about the room. "This is excellent, and we will in return do you all the good in our power, and that you will soon discover. But now I must depart." "Will you not first take a spoonful of supper with us?" asked the wife, setting a dish of porridge down on the stool near the window, for the man of the mount was so little that he could not reach up to the table. "No, I thank you," said the mannikin. "Our king is impatient for my return, and it would be a pity to let him wait for the good news I have to tell him." Hereupon the little man bid them farewell and went their way. From the day forward, Tyler lived in peace and concord with the little people of the mount. They could see them go in and out of their mounds in daylight, and no one ever did anything to vex them. At length they became so familiar that they went in and out of Tyler's house, just as if it had been their own. Sometimes it happens that they would borrow a pot or a copper kettle for the kitchen, but always brought it back again and set it carefully on the same spot for which they have taken it. They also did all the service they could in return. When the spring came, they would come out of their mound in the night, gathering all the stones of the arable land and lay them in a heap along the furrows. At harvest time, they would pick up all the ears of corn that nothing might be lost to Tyler. All this was observed by the farmer who, when in bed or when he read his evening prayers, often thanked the Almighty for having given them the Mount folk for neighbors. At Easter or in the Christmas holiday, he always set a dish, nice milk porridge for them, as good as it could be made out of the mount. Once, after giving birth to a daughter, his wife was so ill that Tyler thought she was near her end. He consulted all the cunning people in the district, but no one knew what to prescribe for her recovery. He sat up every night and watched over the sufferer, that he might be a hand to administer to her wants. Once he fell asleep, and on opening his eyes again towards morning, he saw the room full of mount folk. One sat and rocked the baby, another was busy in cleaning the room, a third stood by the pillow of the sick woman and made a drink of some herbs, which he gave his wife. As soon as they observed that Tyler was awake, they all ran out of the room. But from that night the poor woman began to mend, and before a fortnight was past, she was able to leave her bed and go about her household work, well and cheerful as before. Another time, Tyler was in trouble for want of money to get his horse shod before he went to the town. He talked the matter over with his wife, and they knew not well what course to adapt. But when they were in bed, his wife said, "Art thou asleep, Tyler?" "No," he asked. "What is it?" "I think," she said, "there is something the matter with the horse in the stable. They are making such a disturbance." Tyler rose, lighted his lantern, and went to the stables, and on opening the door found it full of the little mount folk. They had made the horse lie down because the mannikins could not reach up to them. Some were employed in taking off the old shoes, some were filling the head of the nails, while others were tacking on the new shoes. And the next morning, when Tyler took his horse to water, he found them shod so beautiful that the best of smiths could not have shod them better. In this manner the mountain folk and Tyler rendered all the good services they could to each other, and many years passed pleasantly. Tyler began to grow an old man. His daughter was grown up, and his circumstances were better every year. Instead of the little cottage in which he began the world, he now owned a large and handsome house, and the naked wild heath was converted into fruitful arable land. One evening, just before bedtime, someone knocked at the door, and the man of the mount walked in. Tyler and his wife looked at him with surprise, for the mannikin was not in his usual dress. He wore on his head a shaggy cap, a wooden kerchief round his throat, and a great sheepskin cloak covering his body. In his hand he had a stick, and his countenance was very sorrowful. He brought a greeting to Tyler from the king, who requires that he, his wife, and little Inger would come over to them in the mount that evening, for the king had a matter of importance about which he wished to talk with him. The tears ran down the little man's cheek while he said this, and when Tyler tried to comfort him and inquire into the source of his trouble, the man of the mount only wept the more, but would not impact the cause of his grief. Tyler, his wife, and daughter then went over to the mound. On descending into the cave, they found it decorated with bunches of sweet willow, clawfoot, and other flowers that were to be found on the heath. A large table was spread from one end of the cave to the other. When the peasant and his family entered, they were placed at the head of the table by the side of the king. The little folk also took their places and began to eat, but they were far from being as cheerful as usual. they sat and sighed and hung down their head, and it was easy to see that something has gone amiss with them. When the repast was finished, the king said to Tyler, "I invite you to come over to us because we all wish to thank you for having been so kind and friendly to us during the whole time we have been neighbors. But now there is so many church buildings in the land, and all of them have such great bells, which ran so loud morning and evening that we can bear it no longer. We are therefore going to leave Jutland and pass over to Norway, as the great number of our people have done long ago. We now wish you farewell, Tyler, as we must part." When the king had said this, all the mountain folk came and took Tyler by the hand and bid him farewell, and same to his wife. When they came to Inger, they said, "To you, dear Inger, we will give you a remembrance of us, that you may think of the little mountain people when they are far away." And as they said this, each took a stone from the ground and threw it into Inger's apron. They left the mount one by one, with the king leading the way. Tyler and his family remained standing on the mount as long as they could discern them. They saw the little trolls wandering over the heath, each with a wallet on their back and a stick in their hand. When they had gone a good part of the way to where the road leads down to the sea, they all turned around once more and waved their hands to say farewell. Then they disappeared, and Tyler saw them no more. Sorrowfully, he returned to his home. The next morning, Inger saw that all the small stones the mountain folk had thrown in her apron shone and sparkled, and were really precious stones. Some were blue, others brown, white, and black, and it was the trolls who had imparted the colors of their eyes to the stones, that Inger might remember them when they were gone, and all the precious stones which we now see shine and sparkle only because the mountain folk have given them the color of their eyes. And it was some of these beautiful precious stones which they only gave to Inger. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. That was Tyler's Neighbors. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys are enjoying these little short stories. That was from the Nordic Tales. That was a Denmark folklore. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. Let me know down below what kind of folklores you want me to do next. Please be specific as you can, depending on like if there's like the Wolfman, for example. There's a few of them, so just be specific as you can, and I will do all my research and do all that jazz. I love y'all so much. I just want to say thank you for everyone that has watched this channel and everything like that. I hope you guys had a great Christmas, and I hope you guys have a wonderful New Year. If you guys celebrate it, if you don't, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I look forward to next year. My goal is to try to work from home this year. I'm trying to put everything into like action so I'll just keep you guys updated. I love you guys. Let me know if you guys want to see any folklores or stories down below. I love y'all so much. Thank you for all the love and support on this channel. I love y'all so much. Thank you. I'll see you in the next video.